Greetings, Otaku faithful. Thank you for joining me again this week. Once again, it's Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief, and I'm here to give you all my expectations, predictions, and speculations on Season 2 of The Flash right here on Otaku Assemble! Weekly, and finally here to bring you the first in my weekly The Flash videos. Now, before I jump into my expectations, predictions, speculations for Season 2, I want to give you all my thoughts on Season 1. Originally, I was going to do a separate video where I was going to do a review of Season 1, but I figured, hell, it's a week before the Season 2 premiere. I can get my thoughts across in one video, hopefully. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to kick off this, giving you all my thoughts on Season 1. So, I loved it. By and large, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to follow it week by week as it was premiering last year, and that's one of the reasons why I didn't do a video on it last year. In hindsight, I really wish I had reviewed it on a weekly basis, because that's how much, like how deep I got into it. That's how consumed, I was by the series. So anyway, what ended up happening was, by the time the season ended and I noticed CW was airing reruns of it, I was like, well, hell, now's the best time to catch up, right? Man, I followed those reruns on CW for like the first 3 weeks, and then after that I was like, nope, can't do it. I gotta keep watching. I can't wait week for week anymore. I gotta keep watching. So took my ass online, found the season, and I started marathoning them suckers, man. I finished the season in like 2 weeks. It was like the first 2 weeks of June. I finished the entire season. I was like, man, it was so good. That's how much I loved it. So much so that I would even go as far as to say that not only is it my favorite superhero series, but it is my favorite CW series since Smallville ended. And that's a bold statement for those of you all who have followed my channel, who have seen my Smallville reviews. That's a bold statement. But I felt like the series, in so many ways, it had that same feel, that same spirit in it. And I mean, watching those episodes, I was so excited. I was like, oh man, it's like, Thursday night again, like watching Smallville, waiting for the new episode. That's how much I got into The Flash. And I totally wasn't expecting it. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did. I just loved it. I loved it. Okay, so more specific things I want to get into in regards to Season 1, just real quick. Why did I love it so much? Number one, like I said, the atmosphere of it, the feel of it, the fact that by comparison, which is kind of funny. This is kind of funny because I watched The Flash in total before I even went and checked out Arrow Season 3. And when I finally ran across the crossover episode with Arrow, not with Flash, with Arrow, Cisco's character points out the fact how Arrow's world is so dark and gritty and depressing. And they actually make cracks about that throughout, even in The Flash. They make cracks about that, how Felicity says, I come to Central City to get away from the dark and gloomy. So yeah, by comparison, like I said, the atmosphere of it, it's the fact that it's so lighthearted and that it really does feel like a good time, even when the conflict within any given episode or within the season as a whole is dire. Even when Flash goes dark, it's still not nearly as dark as like Arrow is. Arrow, and I'll get into this when I do my expectations video for Arrow, which I'm going to do right after this one. Arrow is, once again, so dark and gritty and gloomy and depressing. It's hard for me to really get engaged with that series. And it wasn't. In Season 1, I didn't have that problem. And neither did I in Season 2. But by Season 3, I just had enough. Flash, I didn't have that problem because it was so lighthearted. And it was so bright and vibrant, and they did not shy away from the comic book material. They embraced it. The whole gimmick with Cisco coming up with the names for the supervillains, and he's using the actual names from the comic book, as crazy as they sound. Captain Boomerang, Weather Wizard, Peekaboo. These crazy sounding names. They it didn't matter whether or not it sounded realistic. We aren't trying to Nolanize this shit, okay? It's like, no, we're going, it's a comic book property, we're going comic bookish. And I fucking loved the fact that they did that. I absolutely loved it. Another thing, Barry as a character. Now, Barry's a hit and miss for me. There were moments where Barry was so relatable that it was crazy. And once again, that goes back to the whole Smallville comparison, how the writers wrote him in a way to where you as the viewer could actually place yourself in that fucking character's shoes. And for fuck's sake, man, Barry and his whole fucking situation, his whole love, romance, crush shit that they had going on with him and Iris, man, that was just another fucking rerun for me, bruh. I done been through that shit more times than I can fucking count. So when they put that in the show, I was like, whoo, man. I was like, where have I seen this before? And I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm not saying that, oh, it's so contrite and it's so derivative and it's so it's so overdone. You know what? Say what you will about that type of stuff. Guess what? Having a main character, having a protagonist who is the superhero, who when he's in that suit and he has his superpowers, he's unstoppable. But guess what? When he's out of that suit, when he's who he really is, and he can't get the love of his life for whatever reason, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? I don't give a damn if his name is Clark Kent, Bruce Wayne, Barry Allen, Peter Parker. Hello. There's a reason why that sort of material has lasted as long as it has. Why? Because people, that resonates with people. People can relate to that. So I really dug that about Barry's character. The things I couldn't stand about Barry's character, number one, to say that he's so fucking smart, he did some really stupid shit in the series. I'm dead serious. There was some episodes where I was just like, especially in the later episodes after Professor Wells left, when it was just Barry, Cisco, and Caitlin. It's like, man, there are probably 2 PhDs between the 3 of y'all, and y'all do some stupid shit. Like that type of shit, it kind of took me out. Because I'm like, no. Also, my biggest complaint about Barry, though, the whining. Oh my God, he was so whiny. And I'm like, look, man, I understand you got troubles. I understand you struggle. Hell, I do them too. But guess what? I don't cry about it. Every second of every damn day, I take the shit in stride. I do what I gotta do and I get on with my day. Barry cried a lot. More so than I would have wanted. You know, a handful of times in the season, okay, cool. You know, maybe every 5 to 6 episodes, alright. But, dude, by the 3rd episode, I was tired. I was like, Barry, like, grow a sack, my man, please. We get it. Your mommy got killed. Your daddy in prison. Alright, it fucking sucks. Now what are you going to do about it? That's my thing. Stop whining, get proactive. And it took him what, 7 episodes before he finally got to that point, and then they didn't stop the bitch, and yeah, he got proactive, but he still whined. So, ugh. Besides that, other things that I loved about the series, the characters. I remember when Cisco got introduced in Arrow Season 2, I was like, man, this guy is obnoxious, he's quipping all the time, he's one of those stereotypical quipping geeks, you know, those nerds, you know, I can't stand this fucking guy. And then, but once again, that was because they took a lighthearted character and they put him in the dark and gritty world of Arrow. Once he went to the Flash, I fucking loved Cisco. Oh, he's probably my 3rd favorite character on the show. I love Cisco on that show. And man, when they had the whole thing where it's like Cisco got killed, I was like, not again. But and then of course he lived, and it was happy times thereafter. But I got scared for Cisco. I was like, and the fact that the show provoked a reaction like that out of me, that means it worked. That means they made Cisco into a lovable character. They made him into a character that we care about. And so his demise is something we didn't want to see. Bravo. Bravo. And yeah, and if I'm going up on the list, okay, so yeah, if Cisco's my third favorite, my next favorite is Joe. I love Joe. I love Joe. Well, I love the actor, number one. I mean, the guy's fantastic. If you guys have ever seen him on Law and Order, I mean, he's perfect for that role. Oh, of course, he's playing a cop. Yeah, of course. But I mean, the way Joe is written as, I mean, just as a character, as a person, as a dad, I mean, I love Joe. The only criticism I have against Joe, and once again, it's based off of the writers, what they bring into it, their cultural backpack. Here's the funny thing. How Joe deals with Iris sometimes I can't relate to it. And this is what I mean. I don't think that, ladies and gentlemen, I have to pull the race card. I'm sorry. If Joe and Iris were a white family like they are in the comics, I would believe that. But they're a black family in the show. And when Joe had to apologize to Iris for lying to her because he was trying to protect her, I'm like, Joe, the fuck are you apologizing for? No, Joe, you lied to your daughter to protect her because you daddy. And what you say goes. Period. Like, Joe is not as militant as I would expect from a black father. Once again, I'm not trying to project my own, cultural backpack into that, but that's just, it's like, I don't know any black fathers who act like that towards their kids. Even the nice ones. It's like, no, like, when it's time for them to be daddy, they daddy. And that's it. In the discussion. They don't sit there and have arguments with their kids for doing something to try and protect their children. No, it's like, no, they're daddy and they do what they have to do to protect their kids. In the discussion. In the discussion. You can get mad at them all you want. You can get pissy with them until the cows come home. It don't matter. They daddy. That's their job. Done deal. So that's the only thing about Joe's character that kind of got at me. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. That's not right. No. Alright. And then of course, because I realize I've been talking for damn near 15 minutes, and I know I was going to say quick for season 1, but favorite character, Harrison Wells. I mean, that's one of the best fucking supervillains I've seen on TV in a very long time. Fantastic. The acting was fantastic. The writing was fantastic. The dialogue. Dude, he has some of the best dialogue I've heard on network television. Harrison Wells. What else can I say about the guy? I mean, he was such a great villain. He was such a great villain. And the whole thing they did with the time travel and the mistaken identity. The whole thing they did with the time travel and the mistaken identity. And, trying to figure out who he was. I mean, it threw even me through a loop. And I'm a comic book reader. I mean, granted, I'm not as familiar with the Flash as an actual Flash reader. I'm more of a casual Flash reader. But even with what I knew going into the show, I mean, they fucking threw my ass through a loop. Jeez. Final thoughts on season 1, because guys, I know this is pretty much a season 1 review. I understand. But final thoughts on season 1. The supporting characters, the special guest characters, loved it. Firestorm, did not think they were going to do his story as well as they did. I fucking loved it. I loved it. The crossovers, I loved the crossovers. Except, well, the one with Oliver, when they were going after, who was it? It wasn't Captain Boomerang, because Captain Boomerang was in the Arrow crossover. It's, who was the villain in the Flash crossover? I'm trying to remember. That Oliver was after. It wasn't Clock King. Even though I thought, yeah, Clock King was in Arrow, but it wasn't Clock King. It was shit, I forget. But anyway, but yeah, like how they managed to create that shared universe just within those two shows impressed the hell out of me. It really did. My hat's off to them, those guys. So anyway, so all in all, like I said, that's my thoughts on season 1. I absolutely loved it. Now, let's get into the expectations for season 2. And I know I'm running up on 20 minutes now. I didn't expect this. Oh well, hell, this is OAW. This is what happens. A 10-minute video turns into an hour video. It happens. Anyway, okay, so my expectations, thoughts, predictions on season 2. What do I expect going into season 2? Alright, so what do we already know? We already know that Jay Garrick, the Golden Age Flash, the original Flash, he's going to be in season 2, and apparently he's going to be a reoccurring character. So it's not just going to be a guest appearance. He's going to be a reoccurring character. What do I expect from that? Pretty much, I expect more of the Time Force. Speed Force, time travel, alternate dimensions, and alternate reality talk. All of that, I expect that to be coming off of Jay Garrick's arrival. That through him is when we'll get, more explanation on the Speed Force and how it works. More explanation about time travel. More. And of course the introduction, because we have yet to have the idea of alternate realities, and I'm not sure if that's what they'll do necessarily. They might just stick to the whole time travel bit, but if they do decide to dwell into alternate realities, I expect all of that to come from Garrick, that he will be that character, that all of that will spin off of. Other thoughts. Let's see. Okay. I'm just going to talk about this briefly, and then I'm just going to leave it alone. The Barry Iris stuff, I don't care for it. I didn't care for their relationship in season 1. Like I said, a lot of it was relatable, but that's the main reason why I'm single. Because I didn't care for the shit, that I could, how I can relate to that shit. Yeah, I didn't care for that shit in real life, so I don't care for it in my fiction either. I don't care for it in my entertainment. The shit infuriates me. So I don't really have high hopes or any type of positive expectation for that. I think it'll just be more or less the same bullshit so that they can drag on the fucking relationship trouble. Cause Smallville did that shit for 4 seasons. So it would not fucking surprise me if Flash decided to go ahead and stretch this shit out for another 3 or 4. And the thing I liked least about season 1 of Flash was Iris. I hate her character 110%, absolutely, positively. Not a single positive quality I find in her. Not one at all. I think she is a tragic bastardization of her comic book counterpart. I just don't like her. I'm not gonna spend another fucking minute talking about that. I don't like her. I might get into it in the comments with y'all about it, but I don't fucking like her. I just don't. She's written terribly. She, as far as I'm concerned, she's a waste of fucking writing space. But since I brought up the West, we do know that Wally is going to be in season 2. How they play with Wally, I have no idea. I would expect him not to become Kid Flash in this season. I think it's too soon for Barry to have a sidekick. If anything, I would expect that to happen at the end of season 2. But then again, there were a lot of things that I thought in season 1, I wouldn't see until the end of the season, and they happen a lot sooner. I'm talking about things that happen, like within 3 to 4 episodes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was Kid Flash by the end of the season. I just wouldn't expect it. I just think it's too soon. Alright, so let's see, other expectations for season 2. The Rogues. I know the Rogues are coming back. And you know what? While I'm talking about the Rogues, I do want to make this comment. I'm not sure how each series is going to set up for Legends of Tomorrow. I know that everything with Sarah is happening in Arrow. I don't know necessarily what Flash's contribution is going to be. If it's going to be Cold and Heatwave and Cold Sister, if that's what they're going to be doing. So they're setting those guys up for Legends of Tomorrow, and then Sarah's being Sarah and Ray. They're all being set up in Arrow. I don't know how they're going to split that, but of course, I mean, oh my God. Wentworth Miller as Captain Cold was fucking phenomenal. I mean, dude, every time he was on screen, I was like, oh my God, it's Christmas. I loved him as Captain Cold. What I'm hoping is that he actually has a bigger role in season 2, but once again, given that he's going to be in Legends of Tomorrow, I don't know how they're going to do that juggling act. But, so that's my thoughts on the... Well, also, here's the other thing, too. What I would like to see in Flash, though, is to have more of the villains become reoccurring. Because really, Cold, Heatwave, and Cold Sister, they were the only real reoccurring villains in season 1. You know what I mean? All the other villains only showed up one other time, and that was in Rogue's Heir, which is like the 3rd to last episode or the 2nd to last episode. So I want to see all of the other villains come back. I want to see the villains reoccur a little bit more. Damn, I think that's it. I think that's all I really have for season 2. Now that I think about it, yeah. More reoccurring heroes, more reoccurring villains. Hopefully a better romance between Barry and Iris, but I don't think I'm gonna get it. Interesting shit with Garrick. A potential new character in Wally. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So that's going to do it for my Flash Season 2 expectations, and technically my Flash Season 1 review. I want to thank you all for joining me again this week. In the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Yeah, I need to go ahead and end this because this camera's about to cut off. So with that being said, this is Larry Williams, OAW Commander-in-Chief. Arrow Season 4 expectations tomorrow. And until next time, peace.